Hey, I'm April.
And I'm Bayleigh, and this is season 2 of the Nestle podcast.
Last year we did something dramatic. We both moved our families across town to the same neighborhood. Our plan was to link arms as we intentionally loved our neighbors.
A few months later, we felt called to link arms with all of you as well. And that's when the Nestle podcast was born.
Here we chat about how to help design meet purpose. Our hope is that you will find inspiration to live more intentionally. We want you to love your home, to love your neighbor, and ultimately to love and serve the Lord.
Every home has a story, and in ours, we're trying to create a culture that's both a launching pad and a soft place to land. So join us each week as we let you peek in our nests. As always, the door will be open. Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the Nestled podcast. We're so glad that you joined us today.
I'm Bayleigh.
And I'm April.
And this week, April has her first neighbor story from her new house.
For my new house I'm not living in yet, but we have been trying to meet our neighbors, and we're out and about a lot because Lance is working outside. And this week, the tip that I have for you guys, and it's something that we have learned in our trying to pursue our neighbors, is that it's never convenient, but to always engage whenever there's an opportunity. So Lance was working outside and he had taken a door out. It was almost dark. I had a crying kid with me with an earache, and the man walked outside to let his dogs out, and he spoke to us and we said hello. Well, then I could tell that he could engage at that time. He was, he was in the mood for a conversation, and it was not a convenient time. Like, the sun is going down and Lance is literally trying to close up a hole in the exterior wall so that no one can get in the house.
I was going to say we've all been there, but not this exact situation.
Right.
We've all been with, like, groceries and kids falling out and whatever, and then somebody says
because
hello.
When you're outside of your house, unless you're purposefully having a party or something,
right,
you are usually in some kind of transition.
Right.
And I was trying to leave with a kid crying with an earache, but I spoke, and then I started to walk away, and I was like, no, this is a great time. He seems like he is prepared to talk, and so we had a great conversation. I mean, it was nothing deep, but I walked away from that conversation, and he said his name, and I've met him before, but it was one of those times that I didn't remember his name, and so now I know his name. And so, if nothing else, that conversation was worth it because I was able to be like, Brandon, that's my neighbor, you know?
You're going to have to do what me and Justin did when we first moved onto this street and, like, draw you a map and write people's names over their house. Yeah. That was the only way we could remember names. We're both really bad at that. So.
Yeah, and the house across from us just sold, and they moved in over the weekend, and we didn't see them, but they already have a wreath on their door.
So they may be our people.
Right? Like, the first thing they did was put a fall wreath up. So I'm excited to meet them. I'll let you guys know how that goes.
My quick little neighbor update story is always make sure you check in and let people know your intentions, because before you know each other really well, they may misread them.
Yes.
So Justin has a couple of times mowed the lawn at the lady across the street from us. She moved in about a month ago. He's mowed her lawn twice just while he was mowing ours, because we know she told us she doesn't have a lawnmower. And she's also single, and she's busy, and she's working, and so it's no big deal. We both have small yards. It's not like it takes some hours and hours. And so we haven't seen her to tell her we were just doing that to be nice. And she left a note on our door that said, "Thank you so much for mowing my lawn again. I'm so sorry that I'm already that neighbor." And she thought we were mowing her lawn because her grass was so high that it annoyed us.
And you're like, we don't care.
I could not care less what her grass looks like.
We are not those kind of people.
No. We were just trying to be nice.
Yeah.
So we're like, no. Please do not think this was like with ulterior motives.
No.
It was a signal that
we do not care about our property value going down because your grass is tall.
Right. And so I think we all just have to remember that with different personalities, there's, like, I always assume that if someone's doing something, they're doing it to be nice.
But not everyone
feels that way. And so we just have to make sure that we check in with each other, especially before we know each other well.
Yeah. But that's a great conversation to have the next time you see her. And so maybe she'll feel loved.
I hope so. Yeah. Okay. Today we have Catley.
We're so excited about this episode, you guys.
We're so excited. I think one of the coolest parts, personally, for me on making the podcast is that people who I've like watched or admired from afar or listened to from afar for a long time, that I now have a reason to engage in conversation with them. And it's the coolest thing.
It really is. It's a cool job that we get to do.
Yes. And so we brought Kat on because she is like the queen of intentionality and purpose in her mornings.
Yeah.
And we all know our mornings set the tone for the day. And we've been very honest that we are not good at mornings. I, Bayleigh in particular, really struggle with it, but I listened to Kat and I listened to her advice and I read her book and it has really made an impact and helped me.
Yeah.
And so we are so thankful that there are people out there who are talented in areas where we're not.
Yes.
And that can bring good sound advice and not just us trying to make up something to say.
Right. And so that's what we're thankful for this week. And it leads right into this really fabulous episode with Catley. We can't wait for you guys to hear all the things that she has to say about mornings. But then also she gives us some little insights into her home and things that we've never heard her say. And we've heard her say a lot of things. So if you know who she is and you're like, I've heard everything Catley has to say, you haven't heard everything.
Right. I hope that y'all have as much fun listening to this as we did recording it. So here is Catley. Good morning, Kat. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We are so good and so excited. For everyone who doesn't know who you are, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family?
Absolutely. My name is Catley, and I live in the thriving metropolis of Waco, Texas, which used to be like my punchline because that was funny because nobody wanted to live in Waco.
Right.
And now everybody vacations here, which just blows my mind because I've lived here since I was 18. And so it is just such a beautiful story of God's redemption of a city that it was the place people hated. Now it's the place people love. So I live here with my college sweetheart, my husband, Jimmy. We've been married 20 years, and we have 3 kids, 16-year-old Anna, 14-year-old Allison, and 12-year-old Jackson. And I have a book called Hello Mornings and a website called Hello Mornings and a podcast called Hello Mornings. So there's a theme there.
Yes.
And it's basically just all about, just keeping it simple. It's basically about how to build a grace-filled and life-giving morning routine.
Your book isn't just for moms because I could have really used it in college.
Right.
And so I have read the book. I needed the book. It has made a huge difference for me. I read it, most of it at like 1 or 2 a.m. because that's how much of a night owl and not morning person I am. But then I've got my kids waking up before 6.
Right.
And so something had to change. So could you tell us a little bit about like why this book, why mornings, what was your motivation for writing it?
So honestly, if I just go back to the very basics of why I wrote the book, it's that I'm just super passionate that everybody listening has a purpose from the Lord, something that they're meant to do, some, great thing that literally no one else in the world could do. No one else is gifted in the way that you are, has the connections that you have, or has the experience or the life story that you have. And there's people literally out there that can know Jesus better, that can be healed of past hurts, that can, have hope for their future because of how you live your life. And I just see so much hope in every day. And the idea of waking up and just kind of floating through our day, which is so easy to do in our culture, it makes me sad when I do it, and it makes me sad when other people do it. So I think fundamentally, I just want to give people a vision that they're not a mistake. They're not just some small person who's not doing very much in life, but that God might be using them specifically to reach one person. And maybe that person will change the world, or maybe one, who knows where he's put them in the tapestry of human history, but just that they have a powerful purpose that he's made only them for. And just there's so much power in just connecting with him every day, because we can't, we can hear that and we can be like, oh my gosh, that's a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Am I totally missing my purpose in my life? And so the idea that they have a purpose, and then the only thing they need to do to walk in that is just to meet with Jesus. Just be like, okay, God, I just want to follow you today. Whatever it is that you'd have me do, wherever it is you'd have me go, whatever it is that you'd have me say, I just want to do that today. And I just want to follow you. And I know that whatever else happens in my life, if I'm just following you step by step, everything is going to be okay. And I feel like in the complicated, busy, chaotic world we live in, that's such a simple message. I have a purpose. And if I just follow Jesus and walk with him, everything's going to be okay. And so just sharing that with people, helping people get a vision for their lives. And then I can get super nerdy. So there's also lots of practical stuff about how to build habits and research on how the brain works and that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit of a conglomerate, but the whole heart is that for people to live out the purpose that God's given them.
Yeah, one thing that was a game changer for me is I've always found that I have my study time better at night once my kids go to bed. And that's still true because my brain just works better at night. But you talking about waking up for your life and not to your life, and just having that Jesus time where I just come to him and talk, and it doesn't mean I have to do a full inductive study at 5:45 a.m. when my brain is literally not ready for it, but I can look at my calendar, I can think about people in my life, I can talk with him about my day, and that's been a game changer for me.
Yeah, that was a game changer for me too, because, as moms, especially, mornings don't always go like we want them to go. Our kids don't follow our calendar, and our schedule for the day. And I think if we can see our relationship with the Lord more like our relationship with our kids or our husband, it'll give us some of that grace to be like, oh, I might not want to go on a date with my husband at 6 a.m. and get all dressed up and go out on a date, but I'm going to, roll over and say good morning and give him a kiss, or bring him his coffee or, sit down and have coffee with him. I'm going to make that relational connection every morning, no matter what. We might go on dates later. We might, go on a yearly retreat later, but it doesn't need to be all of that every morning. And it's just the same with our relationship with the Lord. I call it the start versus the study. We can start every single day with Jesus. No matter what the day looks like, if we're sick in bed, whatever it is, as long as we're awake and our brain is somewhat, responsive, we can start and be like, Jesus, I love you and I just want to follow you today. We can start every day with him. And then the study can be a separate thing that, like you said, it can be at night or whenever works best in our schedule.
Yeah. One of the things that I have found as when my kids were younger and it felt like those little pockets of time were so hard to come by, that what you're saying and just the small things, the Lord was so gracious in those little times. And even if it was just that I was spending just a few minutes in prayer and reading one verse, that he knew that my heart was that I really want to follow you. I really want your purpose to be what my life is about. And so that one verse would carry me through the day in a way that, I have a little bit more capacity now. My kids are getting older. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that every day I get like this lengthy study time, but God in his grace was so sweet to just give me a word, even if it was something really simple that I could meditate on and that would carry me even through those days that I felt like, man, I'm such a bad follower because I'm not really devoting that time to study. Or I don't feel like I have it to give. And I'm up, 5 times during the night. So if I sit still, I fall asleep, Yeah,
right. Well, what I love that you did there is that you were focusing just on the relationship. God, I just want to follow you, and not the rules of, okay, let's see, in order for God to be able to work in my life, I need to, do 15 minutes of this, 15 minutes of this, 15 minutes of this. And, it's kind of like relinquishing the power and be like, okay, yeah, God, you are in control. And I'm just surrendering to you instead of trying to check all the boxes and make this thing work. And I love that you gave yourself the grace to do that.
Yeah. So for people who haven't heard of the book and they're going to put their order in tonight on Amazon, and they are waiting for it to come in and they're like, but I need help right now. So if you were to just say quick tips, you're not going to share the whole content of the book.
Let me start on page 1.
But just quick tips for someone of how to kind of get a jump start to this. Okay, I'm waking up and my day is really just taking me on and I want to get ahead of it. So what would you say to that person?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I would say is that you can go to hellomornings.org and download our 3-minute morning kit. And it's basically just a printable and it walks you through what the 3-minute morning is, which I'm going to tell you here. But I think the biggest mental thing to get through is that small is great. There's a quote by an author named Anthony Trollope, not a Christian author or anything like that, but I love his quote, the way he uses words. He says, A small daily task, if it be really daily, will beat the labors of a spasmodic Hercules. So I love the idea of a spasmodic Hercules. We've all been there. We've all had life overwhelm us, and we're like, next week I'm going to do P90X. I'm going to read through the entire Bible, and I'm going to plan out down to the millisecond, and we're just going to change everything. And how often does that stick?
Right.
Like, never. And so I think the most fundamental thing, if I could get through to people, is just 3 minutes, just something small, just saying, Jesus, I love you every day, can make such an impact and can kind of change kind of the fabric of who we are and who we identify as. So with Hello Mornings, we have the 3-minute morning, and there's the first minute is we just encourage people to pray Psalm 143:8, and it says, let the morning bring me word of your unfailing love, for I have put my trust in you. Show me the way I should go, for to you I entrust my life. And now whether you wake up and you read that on, the printable that we send you, whether you have that memorized and you're just laying in bed and that's the verse through your heart, and you're just letting that be the cry of your heart, for me, that has been so powerful. There's been seasons when, I'm not having an awesome morning routine. I have teenagers, and then I would have a 12-year-old who would wake up early, and just letting that verse be the cry of my heart when I wake up. Even if that's the only thing you do, start there. And that takes 30 seconds.
Right.
So we can do that every day, and just committing to do that every day. Just, Jesus, I just want to follow you today. And then the second part of the 3-minute morning is just looking at your calendar and saying, okay, this is what I have coming up. Because how often have we been surprised by our day because we never bothered to open our calendar? So just looking at your calendar. And then the third part of the 3-minute morning is drinking a glass of water. And so those sound kind of not related, but the heart of it is that, if I'm going to follow Jesus today, I need to know what's happening today, and I need to have the energy to do it. And so, Jesus, I want to follow you today. What's going on today on my calendar? What do I need to give to you? What do I need to add to my calendar? I'm going to drink this glass of water so that this body that you gave me actually runs well, and I'm not hangry and grumpy, to start out the day. So 3 minutes, Psalm 143:8, look at your calendar, drink a glass of water. We can do that literally every day without even getting out of bed. So I feel like it's a pretty simple place to start.
Absolutely. I cannot believe the difference that having that time in my calendar has made for me every day. And I know April's thankful for that, because she's worked with me when I didn't look at my calendar every day. Because we've been running a business for a lot longer than the time that I've been finished reading Hello Morning. But I remember hearing you say, because for those who don't know, Kat Lee has been in the podcast world for a long time, because your Inspired to Action podcast was one of the first podcasts that I ever listened to years ago.
Wow, when I started out podcasting.
Yeah, you're one of the OGs.
A young buck.
But I remember hearing you say, I like to look at my calendar and pray, like, God, who would you have me reach out to today? And I remember thinking, that must be such a luxury to have the time to be able to listen to God tell you who to reach out to and have the time to actually do it. And then now that I've implemented it, it works. Like, He's faithful. He gives me people. Sometimes it's as little as a text message, which is returned with a phone call that's like, how did you know?
Right.
And so that has been so impactful on me. And I keep a list in the side of my calendar now of, like, these are the people we need to invite over for dinner. And I just look at it every day, and I'm like, all right, who should we invite this week? And try and pray about that too. So,
I just love the purpose behind getting on top of it, because this is what we are constantly saying and encouraging and trying to spur people onto, is this living open-handedly with everything, and that includes your calendar. But so that we can be purposeful with our time, we can be purposeful with our homes, we can be purposeful with our days. And for us, this is the busiest season. Every season it feels like it gets busier, and I think that's probably why empty nesters have this real crazy thing that happens when their kids move out, because all of a sudden you look at each other and you're like, oh my gosh, our calendar is not full every minute. But when I look at my calendar in the morning and I go, okay, even though I do have things. There's not a night this week we don't have something. We have multiple practices every day. We have small group. We have, but instead of it just feeling like all these things and it's so much and I can't do it, when I look at it and I go, okay, today, this is what I have. And I've spaced it out and I have time, but I also have time to make that phone call or send that text message because my day is not planned for 24 hours, even the waking hours. And so I just love the purpose behind it and getting on top of making sure that okay, I'm going to use this example. Anyone who's been through Dave Ramsey's study of financial peace, he talks about telling your money where to go instead of your money telling you what it's going to do, and planning ahead so that you get to say to your money, this is where you're going. And it's the same thing with our time. It can either control us or we get to say, this is where I'm going to invest my time and this is where I'm going to invest my energy. And today, this is what we're going to do. And to be able to go to the Lord and say, today's a new day. Your mercies are new every morning. So what do you have for me today? It's just a beautiful way to start.
Yeah.
I like to picture like a train yard. And so let's say there's 17 trains in this train yard, and it's your job to move them all over to Nebraska. I don't know. And so you could get behind one of them and just push it all the way to Nebraska, and then get behind the next one and push it all the way to Nebraska. Or you could just flip the little switches and get them all lined up behind the engine and sit in the engine comfy and not do any work and just turn it on, and it'll take you to Nebraska. And that's, kind of how I see our time with the Lord. There are all these great things that he wants us to do. He wants us to be healthy for his glory. He wants us to live purposeful lives and live with intention and a mission for his glory. And we can do all those things separately and wear ourselves out and not bring him any glory and not be a blessing to people. Or we can line them all up behind the engine of him and his purpose, and we don't have to strain and struggle. We just get to go along for the ride.
Were mornings always easy for you?
Oh, no, I have 3 kids.
Right.
Honestly, they're still not easy because now I have teenagers who stay up way late or get home from things really late, and I have a 12-year-old who still wants to wake up and watch, or an 11-year-old. I totally said my kid was 12. I think it's because I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and then
it feels like it should be 12.
It wants to be an even number, right?
I don't have a 12-year-old. Jackson, I love you. I know how old you are. I'm an 11-year-old. I'm an 11-year-old who wakes up and still wants to watch cartoons. Okay, so for all the moms listening, it's okay if you ever get your kids' names wrong or their birthday wrong.
Oh my goodness. Constant.
So mornings were not always easy, especially when they're little, when you're up throughout the night and the last thing you want to do is get out of bed. When you have a couple really little ones and then a couple in grade school.
Right.
I mean, really every season has its own challenges. It's never easy. It's never perfect. But you will hit seasons when, maybe for a 6-month stretch, it is pretty easy. It is pretty perfect. But then it gets hard again.
Yeah, right.
And that's where we get tripped up so often. And so I've just learned in the process just to be okay with starting back at crawling. In my mornings, be okay with scaling back in different seasons. And I think that's the thing that's kept me going, is just giving myself the grace to not do it perfectly, but to do it persistently.
What was the atmosphere like in your childhood home?
Okay, so this is actually sort of an interesting question because I sort of grew up in 2 homes. So my mother passed away when I was a baby, and I grew up with my dad. So it was a single dad and my brother. But then we also always lived near my grandparents. So I would spend the weekdays at my dad's house with my brother. We can kind of imagine bachelor house, what that's going to be like. Great dad, but, we had things from cans.
Right. Yeah.
We had massive cleanup times when things got, too chaotic and we couldn't see the counters.
Right.
And then I would spend the weekends and the summers at my grandparents' house. And, that was, I like to think of my grandmother's house as maybe like living in a library in the most perfect, beautiful sense, not in the scary,
the be quiet, sense. Right.
It was always very organized and very beautiful, but just in this wonderful, cozy, comfy sense of living in a library for all the book people out there. So I would say that was the atmosphere, kind of loving and library-ish at my grandmother's house, and very free and loving at my dad's house. Not, it wasn't like I lived in this super structured home. We were free to kind of make our own success and choose our own things. And that was a blessing.
Yeah. So what do you hope that your children will remember your home feeling like?
I'm definitely going for the library feel. We actually have a wall of bookshelves in our living room, and I don't know what it is about libraries. My kids will actually go to the library, and the little book drop where you can like open the little flap and put the books in. They'll open the flap and just stick their nose in and sniff. Like, I'm not even kidding. As teenagers, they will do this. So I really want it to feel peaceful. I love having music playing. I want them to walk in and feel like, okay, I can relax now. I don't need to perform. I can be grumpy now that I'm home because I feel safe here. And I feel inspired to follow Jesus. I feel inspired and equipped to follow wherever God is calling me. So I just wanted to feel worshipful and cozy and fun. I do love rip sticking. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's like a skateboard, but with two wheels. Okay, so when we were changing out the flooring in our living room, we all rip stick through the living room. We have like a Nerf basketball thing. So I have lots of friends who are also very good friends with the Gaineses. And so I like to joke that they go over there for, really nice fancy stuff, and they come to my house for the more frat party style / frat party / library feel, I guess.
You're trying to combine your two homes.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, this is like therapy. That's exactly right. Like, our dining room table has this nice little burlap thing with candles, but I actually connected little magnets to the end of the burlap. So if you pull the candles across the table, the burlap piece turns into a ping pong net. And so we can play ping pong on the dining room table. So I literally am combining my childhood.
That is perfect.
That is your ENFP coming out.
I am loving that you can do the ripstick. I feel
Me too. I was thinking
confident that I would hurt myself.
I
cannot skateboard even.
No, me either. My husband and kids would probably like nothing more than to watch me try to do a lipstick.
Absolutely.
You could do it. I believe you could do it. You just need to want to do it and dedicate the time to it.
Dedication. That's what
I hugged the fence for a while, and I watched lots of YouTube videos when I first got it. But my husband calls it my thinking stick, and I'll get on it and I'll just skate around, and I really enjoy it. And I have fallen before. I actually fell at the specific moment that I was skating, and I was thinking, I wonder if ripsticking is an event in the X Games. I think I can make it. I mean, I'm 43, but I think I can make the X Games. Maybe in 2 years. And at that moment, I was looking at the sky. So that dream died a little bit.
We're so much alike, Kat, because if I'm good at anything, I'm always, like, I still think, I have no athletic ability, but I'm like, I could totally be an Olympian in something, I just haven't found it yet. Like,
every time the Olympics comes around, I look up dual citizenship because my mother was from the Philippines.
Okay.
So Filipino-American dual citizenship rules so that maybe, how great can the Filipino ski jumping team be? I mean,
there must be something.
There's got to be something. Curling, I don't know.
Yeah. Bocce ball. Something.
Surely,
it's an Olympic sport.
Surely cornhole will be in the Olympics soon.
At some point. So you just need to practice.
That's where the frat party side of you will really come into play.
Will shine. Maybe we can be a team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get us some gold medals.
Yeah. Some cornhole medals.
Which, they make $25,000 if they win a gold medal, because I've looked it up, obviously. Because I need to know when I win my gold medal what's
coming back to you.
With it. Nice.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kat, along the same line of your home, do you think that having your mornings together changes the atmosphere of your home as a whole?
Oh, definitely. Because if I'm not starting my day with Jesus, I'm waking up and trying to make things a certain way. So I'm pushing all those trains around instead of just following him. And, I can get up and I can be grumpy, or I'm like, why didn't you get up on time? Or, especially now this school year when there's so many things that need to happen. My tone is you can be a little pushy, can be a little, why can't everybody be organized right now? I'm not naturally organized, but I'm being organized. So I think you can accomplish this. I know you're only 5 years old, but come on, let's get the schedule down. Whatever.
Get your shoes on.
Get your shoes on. Yeah. Bring me the brush.
Come on.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm not spending time with Jesus and starting with Him, and just taking that moment to exhale. My husband and I went to see the what do you call it? The Mr. Rogers movie last night. And the word that I walked away with from watching that was deliberate. He was deliberate in the way that he listened to people. He was deliberate when he talked to children. He was deliberate about everything that he did. And so regardless of how much time I have in the morning, if I'm just deliberate with Jesus and I just take that moment to exhale and be like, okay, Jesus, I just want to follow you and I just want to be like you. And then I walk into my day from that heart and that attitude, it absolutely changes the tone. I think I've heard it said that, I'm going to butcher this, that a woman or a mother can be either the thermometer or the thermostat for her home. And I feel like when I am not starting my day with Jesus, I am a thermometer. And when I am starting with Him, I'm the thermostat and I'm setting the tone and the feel of my home.
It's so true. And I got in touch with April last night and said almost that exact thing. I was telling her, she called last night to talk about something for work, and my house was crazy. And I was like, everyone's in a terrible mood. And I told her, Justin, my husband, was in a bad mood. All the kids were in a terrible mood, even the babies. And I said, and I know it's on me, because I went into the afternoon in the worst mood, and I know I set the tone. And I put every single person around me in the worst mood last night, and then was like, everyone needs to go to bed.
We're going to try again tomorrow.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing is that you can reset that tone. That's you go and study the scriptures, go and meet with Jesus and be like, God, can you help me reset the atmosphere of my home?
Yes.
I know that I used to be like, the kids would jump on me and I would kind of wake up and I would be grumpy. But on days when I would spend time with Him and I'd, maybe feel like God wanted me to give an encouragement to Jackson, and I could wake up and go into his room and wake him up, and I could, instead of being like, come on, let's go, I'd be like, hey, Jackson, I really feel like God wanted me to tell you that He made you to be a superhero, and you are such an encouragement to your friends. I love how you leave those little notes for your classmates after reading class that they can do it and that they're good readers and they're gonna be great in school. I think that means so much to them, and they might not have anybody else that tells them those things. You are a superhero, buddy, and I'm so excited for whatever God has for you today. And in and of myself, that's not the first thing that I'm going to say in the morning. But God can give us just those arrows of things that are going to be the exact thing that somebody needs to hear. And I could spend years researching. I could become the best counselor. I could become the best whatever and not know the thing that somebody needs to hear. And God can give us those things. And so I find that morning time is so perfect for me to get through to my teenagers, because teenagers are they're a special snowflake.
Yes.
And you need Jesus and you need the Holy Spirit when you raise teenagers.
Just one more example of that from yesterday, which God knew we were going to have this interview today. So He gave me a really hard day yesterday.
Some good examples.
But yeah, yesterday my 5-year-old came home with a phone number from another friend. Her mother had written it down, so I know she had permission to give the number. And she came home so excited about it and said, now we can call each other every night. And I was so annoyed by her having this phone number, because I'm like, you're in kindergarten. What can you not say at school that you have to come home and be on more technology and you're going to try and text each other or call? I don't know. It just really rubbed me wrong. And then after my quiet time this morning, I went and found her and I said, you know what, Aniston? We have been talking to you for 2 years about making friends. And you made a friend that cared to give you a phone number. And I'm sorry that we gave you, that. I can't. I'm so on my period. I'm emotional. But I felt so bad that we gave her a hard time about that phone number, and she heard me complain about it out loud multiple times, and I'm like, we have begged her to make friends. Just one. That's what we keep saying. Just make one good friend. And she was saying, this is my best friend. Her name's Madison. Yeah. And so anyway, but that was not of me, because I was so annoyed. And if I wouldn't have taken the time this morning, I didn't pray about that. But that's what I was convicted of.
And I love that you went to her and you said that to her. How much does that mean to her to have her mom be like, oh, I was kind of wrong in my response there. I mean,
Yeah.
that speaks so much to her. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
I hope so. We're trying not to mess them up too bad.
Well, I just keep saying that that what I have learned is that throughout the scripture we see all these people who didn't get it right, but they repented well.
Mhm.
And so my way of not completely destroying my kids forever is to just repent well. So I feel like that they can learn as much in my humility as they can learn in me really getting it right. I would like to get it right a little more often than I do, but they do hear me say, I'm really sorry. I did not handle that right. A lot. And I don't ever remember that being a part of the dialogue with my parents. And I had good parents.
Mhm.
But that was just not a part of our conversation, and I'm thankful that the Lord has taught us, hey, you should tell your kids that you're not perfect.
Right.
So
Right. All right, so moving along to something much more lighthearted, we're going to do Love It or Leave It.
All right, I'm ready, I think.
Okay, the first
Stretch
one.
for mornings.
She said she's stretching.
Or anytime.
Okay, coffee.
Oh, love it. Love deeply, deeply love, deeply love it. Love it and need it. I'm hugging it right now. I have it in my hand.
So you drink your water and then your coffee?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you a coffee all day person or just in the mornings?
In the mornings, but then usually my second cup of coffee tends to last all day. So I'll just kind of sip on it throughout the day, because coffee in the evening is not always, doesn't make a good cat. So
No.
yeah.
No.
All right, using your cell phone as an alarm.
To
wake up.
Leave it except for an emergency. So I have a Fitbit Versa, and so I have my alarms on there, which is this nice gentle buzz. I have to set 10 of them so that they can eventually buzz me awake. But it's this nice gentle buzz. And then my phone is kind of the last minute alarm. Your teenagers are going to be late and be really mad at you if you don't wake up by this time. So it's like the emergency backup DEFCON 10 alarm.
I know there's a big push to not have your phone in your room, and I don't let my kids have their phone in their room. I had to buy them an alarm clock because I'm not going to wake you up every day because I'm not as good at mornings as I should be. But I still use it as my alarm clock, and I hate that I do, but I do. Okay, next one, running.
Well, it's complicated. Used to love it, now only love it when it involves a tennis racket.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't love to run laps, but you don't mind
Yeah, when there's not many athletic opportunities for 43-year-old women. So running 5Ks is one of the few. So if I have to, then that'll be the form of competition I accept until I get my official invite to the U.S. Cornhole Olympic team.
That's right.
If I have to run, I will. But right now, tennis is my sport of choice, and I love running in the context of tennis.
Okay.
What are your chances of going to the Olympics for tennis?
I think Serena Williams should be very nervous. That's all I'll say.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
Our muscles are similar. Sorry.
Oh, right. You got a similar build?
Yeah. The Asian thing.
You're right. Binge watching television.
I'm so complicated. I can't just say love it or leave it. I have to give a story. I will say I loved it last year. I'm trying to leave it more this year. So I homeschooled my 8th grader last year. So part of our curriculum, quote unquote, tongue in cheek, was script writing, in which we would watch a daily Hallmark movie or watch Heartland, a Canadian television series about horses. So loved it last year, trying to be more productive this year and leaving it.
Okay. Did you watch When Calls the Heart?
It's not on the Hallmark Now app. And so, no, because we don't have access to it. But
gotcha. We watched it on Netflix.
That's a good one. You would like it.
Okay, maybe I just need to buy it.
Yeah, I think it's worth buying. My kids,
it was good.
They all watched it with us.
She got me to watch it.
Yeah, it's really
good.
sweet.
Okay, well, fine. Now I'm changing my answer.
Okay, so now you're going to binge watch that.
But just that one, and then you can be done.
Okay, on the line of TV and Waco, Texas, how do you feel about Fixer Upper?
I love it because it's the best way for me to research homecoming dates. People that ask my daughters to homecoming or whatever, I just watch their television show, and so I can know more about them. So it's a great way to look into the lives of people. No, seriously, like so many people we know have been on the show.
That's funny.
Well, I've often thought, I'm like, Waco is not that big. It's incredible that they
keep finding
that many houses and people that they can.
Well, they go to our church too, and so we have lots of the same people. So it's super helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, watch the show too, but
right.
Yeah.
It's almost like
to watch our friends.
An extension of social media. You get to like dig a little deeper.
It is, yeah.
All right, and then the last one that I think we're going to pretty much ask everyone this season, and it's very polarizing. But Bachelor or Bachelorette, the TV show, what do you think?
Never seen any of them, and I don't think it would be up my alley. I'm all relational, and I'm like, there's just no way.
Yeah. The hopeless romantic in me just can't get enough. I know it's like crazy. I know that it is such trash, and we will make fun of it the whole way through. And then by the end, I'm totally invested. And I'm like, I hope they get married.
Yes.
That sounds like how my daughter and I would watch the Hallmark movies, because they'd always be cheesy and predictable and whatever. And so we would watch it while talking to it and or yelling at it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. We all know that you want this boy that's over here, but the guy that you have as your best friend is the one you're going to be with. So stop it with that nonsense.
Right.
Every time.
All right. Well, Kat, thank you so much for talking to us about all of this.
Yes.
We're so glad that you came on. I loved your book. Thank you for writing it.
Yes. And I hope that all of our listeners will follow along, listen to your podcast and all those things. Will you once again just remind us where they can find you on the internet? I know you mentioned it earlier, but just as a reminder.
Absolutely. So you can go to hellomornings.org, and all of our resources are there. You can get the 3-minute morning. You can download the first chapter of the Hello Mornings book, and you can find our social media stuff. If you want to find, since this is moms on here, if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm @TheCatLee_. If you're just super excited about seeing pictures of my kids and my non-existent 12-year-old.
Poor Jackson.
I feel confident.
Is that the right name?
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel confident he'll never listen to this episode.
Yeah,
so you're probably
fine. You're safe. You're completely safe.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kat.
Thank you.
Bye. One thing that I loved so much that Kat talked about was at the very beginning of the interview, whenever she talks about how every single person who's listening to this, every person who's alive today has a purpose.
Right.
And as you listen to this and you get done and you go to put down your phone, don't just scroll through Instagram. Go do something today. Make use of the time that you've been given. Every second that you're alive, God intended for you to be alive. So use that encouragement and just go forth and do something with your life.
Yeah. One of the things that was so timely for us in this episode and in our community groups, we've been going over spiritual gifts of the people in our group. And it's been a really neat conversation to have in hearing other people's gifts and seeing someone and then being able to say, yeah, absolutely, I see that in you, and encouraging them in that. And so one of the things that I just want to add to that is not only is there a purpose and a gifting specifically for you, but also for the people around you. And sometimes people can't see it in themselves. And so use the opportunities you have to encourage other people and call out those gifts in them. And if you see someone who's really struggling, like remind them of their purpose, remind them of what they have done to encourage you or ways that they have impacted your life. Because we all do have purpose, and it's not just a selfish thing, but that's a part of what we're always trying to say of loving your home and the people in it, but also loving your neighbor. And part of loving your neighbor is encouraging them and seeing the good in them, even when they can't see it in themselves. So,
and we will link in the show notes the quiz that everyone in our church took.
Yes.
To find out your spiritual gifts. If you guys want to do that, what that looked like for us practically is we all took it. And then we all sat around and went through our top 5 spiritual gifts. We read them out loud, and some of them we didn't even know what they were, so we read the descriptions. And it was a neat thing to be able to, like you were saying, speak into other people of, I see that in you. That makes so much sense to me. And every single person, those giftings did make so much
Yeah,
sense.
they did.
You know?
It was really neat.
And it's also always nice whenever you hear people say, "Oh, I see that in you."
Right. It's very encouraging.
Yes.
The other thing I would say is if you do take the quiz is that then you unsubscribe from the emails from that thing because it gets a little crazy.
I did not know until we sat around last week and somebody said, "What are all those belief net emails?" I thought it was like, "Belifne." I was like, how did I get sucked into some French subscription service? And I had not clicked any of the emails to open them. I was just annoyed that they were coming through. And they said that, and I'm like, "Belief net. That makes more sense.
And
That's
now I
where they
know.
came from.
Yeah. The belief net.
Yeah, so get rid of those Belifne emails. You don't need them.
You don't need that. They get a little out there.
Yeah.
So I would not encourage you to read them daily and
Right.
be inspired by those. But
Right.
the
But
test
test
is very
good.
beneficial. And I think that it's going to be a really neat thing also for building teams and stuff.
Yes,
So.
yes. So you guys, please continue to listen to this podcast each week. You can subscribe to us on iTunes to make that easier. Also, we would be so appreciative if you would leave us a review. I know that our giveaway is now over, but we still need reviews.
Yes.
It takes you about 30 minutes.
30 seconds.
I'm sorry, 30 seconds. Look, we're not even asking
We're
you
not
to do
even
something
asking
that takes
30
minutes.
minutes. It's really 30 seconds.
And this is the only payment we're asking from you guys right now is a little review. And when we get enough, we'll quit bugging you about
Yeah,
it.
we won't ask any more when we have enough. We don't know what enough is. But
No,
whenever
but
we
it's
get
more than
there-
what we've got.
Yes.
So leave us a review.
Yes.
You can also find us on our website at poshnestdesigns.com. That will soon be changing over to
Yeah.
Nestle Podcast. So we'll
Soon.
keep you guys updated when that goes live. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Both of those pages are under Nestle Podcast.
Nestled Podcast. And once again, we're so thankful that you guys have taken a minute to peek in our nests.
We hope you'll come back next week. As always, our door will be open.